All right then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all of you lovely city planner people. My name is Josh, and welcome to another episode of Dead Men Streaming back here in Cities Skylines 2. At the time of this recording, it is May the 10th, and I'm going to be honest with you, I do have a schedule today. So, this is literally going to be no more than an hour and 5 minutes, if not a little bit less. So, let's take a look, and we'll get to this death wave in a second, but before we do, you may have noticed on our last video and this video, things look a little bit different. Not a lot, but a little. And here's the thing, I had some time a couple days ago to play, but I didn't have time to do a recording. Yeah, those are two entirely separate things. And I thought, well, let me come in and let me tidy up a couple of things. And what I ended up doing was completely revamping the whole blessed road network. I don't even remember everything that I did. So um, moved the highway system completely, deleted this, straightened up all the roads going out from underneath and around it. Then, in terms of on and off ramps, I took two trumpets. I've got one pointing, we're going to call this north to south today. I've got one pointing north, another one pointing south. This is an interesting setup and not something I've done before. I'm curious to see what the traffic flow is going to be like. I suspect that it's going to create a bottleneck on these two locations. Um, we're going to see about maybe, yeah, like I'm dragging that one. We're going to see about maybe slipping in a diverging diamond over here later once I see how that traffic piles up, and another one over here just to ease off some of the traffic flow because I don't want all of the inbound, outbound traffic coming directly out of this cloverleaf. This is going to be heavy on traffic. There's no two ways about it. We need to come in and put in a pedestrian bridge somehow that's going to cut up and over from all of this just to give people who are walking on Myrtle Street a way to get past this nightmare. Whether we'll probably end up putting two, one here, going across. It's not something I can fix right now. Um, I mean, it is, but I'm not going to. And the other things that I did, we've got this hanging chad of a rail line still that needs to be addressed, but we haven't bought those tiles. I did buy a lot of tiles. At one point, I had 11 million in the bank. We don't have that anymore because I bought up over here. I went ahead, I got our rail yard installed. So we have extra trains now pushing to and from. I went over here, I bought more tiles. In addition to this interchange, I went ahead and put in another rail station here. You may not think this one's important, and right now it really isn't, but the plan is to put in a harbor district down through here, and that's going to feed directly out of it. So here is my plan with this area. What I'd like to do is this is going to be downtown, office centric, building this up. This is going to be significant residential. We're going to have a mix of high, medium, and even some low density popping up through here. Likely going to be low density around the riverbank, high density as we get closer to the highway, mid and high through this area. Um, it's going to have to be something we take slowly because otherwise we're just going to be importing so much extra traffic all at once and it's going to choke up every single available road. Like it's going to choke up this intersection, it's going to choke up this highway here because this is only two lanes. Um, so I mean, I know it's a non-ideal situation, but it's the cards we were dealt. It's the cards we're going to develop, and we're going to go from there. Speaking of which, had a problem as I was doing this. If you go all the way down, where was it? Right here. This tram track didn't exist until yesterday because there was a glitch right here. Two tram stops, one here ish, and it was causing the southbound tram line to freeze completely. So if the southbound tram line froze, this got tied up, blocked this intersection. You wouldn't think that's a bad thing. There's not too much down here, except for a crematorium. And we had a line of hearses backed all the way up and a death wave and a half populating through this part of the city. Now, I've solved most of that. I put in two small uh, French style crematoriums somewhere over here. I don't even remember where they went. And adjusted this so that the tram tracks do not actually cross that intersection and block that. It's the one thing I hate about trams in this game. When they glitch, they stop. When they stop, it screws up the roads every single time. But upon looking at it and logging in this morning, I noticed that we've got another death wave going on over here. Now, I already checked. Traffic wise, we're actually okay. We're not great, but we're as good as I can usually get it in this game. In CS1, I could get traffic down to like 90%. CS2, I'm lucky if it hovers around 70. Um, so the road network is not great, but it's not terrible. And it's going to be what we live with. So, what I'm assuming has happened is that the city has aged up enough that our elderly population that moved in droves when we first started, well, they've unfortunately started to not fear the Reaper. And there's two things we can do. We can either wait it out, make sure, and hope that our death care system is enough to handle it. According to the numbers, our death care system is more than capable of handling it with 569 deaths a month and a handling capacity of 14. If you click on the district name and bring up this, we do have two crematoriums active and working. Um, I, what I'm going to just go ahead and do, and even Little Burbia seems to be okay. Elizabeth Meadows cuts all the way down into there. Let's take a double check. Yeah, let's fix this right here. Let's get Little Burbia's district to go there. We're missing some nodes right there. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Um, and last but not least, something that I don't like. I don't like this open space over here, but I'm kind of limited. We've got heavy pollution, heavy pollution, residential. There's not a lot that can go in here. We can drop in a specialty building, an achievement, another industrial building would probably work. Industrial signature building, maybe the dairy house, possibly something that would be feeding into the cargo port, or a heavy mail processing center. It's a little out of the way for a server farm or something. I also don't want to just drop a couple of crematoriums over here. That feels weird. So let's start with death care, and then we're going to come over and we're going to do some continual development over here in this area and get it started to have some buildings come in. So we're going to do all of that in about another hour and 10 minutes. So let's get to work, shall we? All right, so death care, of course, is underneath here. We want a crematorium. No good place for it, unfortunately. I will go ahead, I will stick it beside the cemetery. And since we've got money, I'll go ahead and upgrade that cemetery like a madman here in a minute, too. And I'll go ahead and stick a second one in over here. It looks like we're going to have to turn off snap to roads for some reason. So it doesn't want to line up perfectly right there. This does put it across from a bunch of office buildings. There's no real park or memorial right there that'll work with it. So it's just going to have to be what it is. All right, so let's upgrade this. Put two hearse garages. That gives us, what, 20 vehicles total. And we'll make sure that it's working up here. We don't really have a death care issue down in Little Burbia, so I'm not worried about that. Then let's go over here to this one. Gonna do the same thing, give it the full upgrade path. Here we could stick in a couple more, so that gives us, what, 30. I can live with 30. All right, and selecting the operating district. That should be more than enough death care to handle this, even as the population ages out. Unless we've got some underlying health or significantly terrible problem that I'm not aware of. So speaking of the cemetery, we didn't upgrade this. We had low money when we bought it, so taking a quick look, we can add the temple to increase well-being. We can add the columbarium to store the cremated remains, and this city does have a lot of cremated remains. And we've also got the mausoleum, which turns the cemetery into a sightseeing attraction, which, in theory, if this game had a strong way to deal with Tourists, it would help drive tourists to the town. Game really doesn't, so we'll just go with it. And I'm just sort of filling in as I go here. And it looks like we are not exactly respecting the topography over here. So let's just push on that riverbank a little bit. Get this last temple in for looks and style points. And then over here, I mean, we've literally just carved out a section of hillside here. Let's not. Let's try a slope terrain tool. And then we'll go with our slope tool. Okay. And I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and come over here. Any idea what tree this is? The game tell me if I click on it? Alders. Okay. So just for the sake of it, let's see. London hickory pine, spruce, birch, oak, alder. Okay. Make sure these are adult trees. Got our brush. Cut the brush size down to about 70. Put the strength up to 75%. Like I hate to go just like, oh, trees, but trees are really the only thing that I can see when I'm looking at this game that really improves the graphics. Now, full disclosure, I'm using a video card that's like 5 generations old. So the fact that I can even run City Skylines 2 and do a recording at the same time, I'm kind of impressed with it. I'm working on upgrading to a new one, trying to get the funds for it, but I'm happy with it. All right, so that improves just that as a thing right there, and I'm okay with it. Before we go on to building our downtown, let's double check our services just because I'm paranoid that way. Good on electricity, great on water, we fixed our sewage. Okay, healthcare, average health is 64%. I've not been able to get it to go above that since I've started playing. I think like 4 patches ago. All right, cemetery buildability is good. Crematorium availability is good. Garbage management looks pretty solid. Nothing in the green. Okay, education, elementary school education is as always terrible, no matter how many schools we put down. Um, we can try to do something about that, a little something about that. So I'm going to pull this. Uh, let's put snap to row back on. We could stick a school down here in Copper Bluff. So stick 2. How many students this hold? 1,000? Okay. So we'll drop 2 schools back here on this walking path. And that'll be an extra 1,500 students each. We'll set the operating districts. Interesting enough, you notice that I put the schools down and everybody liked it. I put the extension wings down and everybody got mad about it. I would say make it make sense, but I'm not going to ask you to do that. Looking at this, we got a small tweak we can make right here. We can run this park path. Right to that road. And while I don't like to encourage people to walk on a roadway, that will give them a quick shortcut off of that pedestrian path. All right, so that's done. Okay, saving game really quick. And while I save, I'm taking a drink of caffeine because I have a long day ahead of me. Honest answer, I'm playing with you guys because you guys help me feel better. And we're just going to leave it at that. That is sufficiently creepy enough. You guys help me feel better. All right. I'm going to. We've got like 3 elementary schools in a block radius right there. now 6. Um, I don't know. I've got all this other extra space that's open. Elementary school behind an elementary school, I guess. I have no idea what those upgrades were. Uh, urban playground on top of it, and an extra extension wing, and that's gonna fit how many students? 1,700 right here in Cooper Bluff. Okay, so that takes care of that. There can't be that many students up here. Of course, it's not going to tell me, because why would it? Let's take a look at that elementary school. Okay, so it's still good. All right, and we don't have any schools really assigned over here except for this one. It's not full. So is our education crisis over here then? You know, it might be. This says we only have one city elementary school focused on this district. I don't know how that happened. So, because we've got a bunch. Okay, well, we can fix that. We have room to add an additional elementary uh back here, I would say. Like this puts it right next to Principalis, so that office complex would be an odd space to have a school, maybe? Or directly across from this industrial plant before anybody tells me, oh, you don't put a school next to industrial plant. Tell that to the abandoned industrial fiberglass plant that's a block away from my house and 2 blocks away from one of the oldest schools in my city. Real life, gotta love it. West Virginia. Yeah. All right, moving there. Go ahead and there's another good place. Without demolishing existing buildings and constructs. I think we can get away with another one up here. And we'll use the. Oh, is that a high school? No, elementary. We'll use the Mediterranean one again, just to sort of fit in with everything. And I do hate spending all this money with the game paused, but when you're setting up schools and setting up districts and things like that, it's really kind of critical to make sure that you've got a good lock in on your districts before you do anything. Okay, any schools over here? You know, there's a city elementary down there. It's also saying we're low on high schools, which kind of surprises me. I think sort of right here. It's away from things, but it's not too far away from things. Okay, let's take a look at our high school up here. Is this high school full? And since I don't really know where it is, we'll click on Elizabeth Meadows. We will realize we never put a dedicated high school here. We've got this high school, but it's not dedicated. But it's only got 1,200 students, so I can't say that I'm worried about it. Do we have a high school down here? Okay, so for Little Burbia, we've got 2 elementaries, but no high schools. How did I miss that? Because 1, 2, we've got 4 education complexes. Here is a high school. It's serving the area. It's serving all the area. Huh. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and add an additional high school here then to make sure it's specifically targeted for here. Let's see. That's the big one. That's the Eastern European. It's the Denmark. I don't like that. I'll slip in the modern high school down here. Well, that's going to be a little too modern. Um, Mediterranean high school again should be pretty solid. Either that or, the North USA, well, USA Northeast High School is not going to fit over here unless we scroll it away over here. And I'd be kind of offended if I took my kids to high school and it was right next to either a dockyard or a recycling plant. I feel like that would be a little gross. Um, and there's just not room up there. So that one is out. And the USA, the Southwest High School is even bigger. It's a good building and I do love it, but it's out. Well, okay, so the Japanese Town High School is also pretty big. Darn. Eastern European, of course, is not. It's going to be a box building. And the Southwest Small High School is really small, but with a student capacity of 400, um, it's not going to be enough to make me feel comfortable. Yeah, I'm just going to cave. I'm going to slip in the Mediterranean High School. We've got all this space down here that we're not really using. I think it'll fit just fine. Yeah, down here we can turn this into a small education complex. Okay, and that should help fill in with Little Burbia a little bit. Okay. All right, I am. Let's take a look at our industrial signature buildings. So we've got the oil refinery still, pharma, which is a really important building. But I'd like to save that to put around medical universities, which we haven't built yet. We should, but we haven't. Let's see the fuel plants. Speaking of which, taking a drink. Now this one's nice because if you notice some of these, the first four, oh, first three. Oh wait, this is messed up. All right, we haven't built that. I don't care why it's showing it. The vehicle factories +2 industrial efficiency. We do have ground earth already built. We don't have the dairy house. Now that increases our export profits citywide. That would be really good to build. Paper factory just increases industrial efficiency. Chemical plant is huge, makes a lot of chemicals. It's not the biggest building. It's not as big as I thought it was. Fuel plant's pretty sizable. I like this though, but because it decreases air pollution and ground pollution. Those are both good things. A pharma is an increase in industrial efficiency and university education. Um, it's not a, it's a mid-sized building. And then finally, our oil refinery does the same thing, but it's much bigger. Oil refineries look really good next to harbor areas, just as a note. So we're going to save that for when we put in a second harbor for cargo ports. I think I'm just going to live with a dairy house. And, well, we don't really have any farms or livestock down here right now. We can add some. We can say, hey, we've got this dairy house here, and it makes sense to add a couple of farming locations in this area. And livestock doesn't require anything, so we can turn this into an industrial farm right through here. We'll see how it looks. It's not going to look the greatest. I mix the farm setups from City Skylines 1. So livestock farming requires nothing, requires no fertile ground, although there is plenty of fertile ground over here if we want to go this route. I'm going to run a small alley right across and behind here. Now, for whatever reason, I find it easier to set the building down and then set up the harvesting node. What I'd like to do is sort of use up as much of this zone as I possibly can coming through here. So that does kind of stick out a little bit. I'm not saying it sticks out like a sore thumb. It does stick out a smidge, but I think we could really justify that. Be like, okay, Dairy House, this is a new base of operations for something like Dairy Queen. They've moved in. They're trying to expand their operations. And I think that would pass the sniff test in just about any situation. But just for added look and style, let's go ahead and expand out a alley right there to serve as kind of a boundary. I I am tempted to put in some farm buildings around here or even on this side. I don't know. We'll see. But what I would like to do is check our commercial buildings then. Okay. Make sure if everything's selected. Auto Center. Okay, so that's Villa City. An old soda style bar. That's kind of what I'm looking for. All right. Marketplace. Oh, we've already built that. Streamliner Diner. Food Station. Gas Station. Fashion Square. Activity Plaza. No. How big is the Activity Plaza? Okay. The Emerald Building. Smart Bowl. We don't need a hotel here. Sort of checking on the size because a lot of these I haven't ever built. I know we already have a pub down here, so those are out. Don't need a country hotel. But something like this, something right here where we could say, we've got this big, huge farming section and they are supporting, you can come in and go for a tour, then you can come over and get fresh dairy and ice cream right over here. I like the idea of that. So let's go ahead and we'll put snapping back on because we had to disable it for a minute. And I'm going to cheat and do the pathing trick. Because I want to leave, or the pathway trick. Because I want to leave all of that area untouched. Those squares to the right of this path. We do that. Then we get our alley back. Bring it down. Bring it over. Well, this won't make a huge difference. Let's get rid of those new stoplight additions and fix that. Then we'll get our little bar. And I'm actually going to go ahead and use a small pedestrian street to walk across there. Again, we'll get rid of stop sign. Get rid of that crosswalk. So we'll get rid of both of those crosswalks. Put in 2 right there. That's fair. And then instead of commercial buildings right there, let's see what we can fit in for parks. And then we'll move over to our downtown. Large city park's not going to fit. excuse me, pair of those will though. And then just to even this up, go back to our alley. Delete those unnecessary nodes. I had planned to put stuff there. I wouldn't have gone to all that effort. All right, so that cleans up that. Kind of feel like I've overdone myself here, so let's slip that. Like I made something slightly simple be overly complicated. So many crosswalks. And once again, we'll be back with tree stuff. Welcome to City Skylines 2 and tree stuff. We'll float in some hickory coming back through here. Okay, bonus industrial plant, all that. That kind of makes a difference for me for right here. I think I'm a little happier with that than I was. All right, moving on. Gonna save so I don't lose any of that. Time is now on my side. I've got another 30 minutes, give or take. All right, resuming game. Let's get on to it. All right, moving on from here. Trying to decide if 30 minutes is long enough to get a harbor built, and it might just be. But I would like to go ahead and start zoning in some of our office demand while we have it. So in this case, I do want to finally start seeing some real high density offices come in. So let's pick a couple of spots that they'll fit in. Right there, right there, right there. And that eats up our office demand. Same token, I do want to see some large high density buildings. My favorite ones are a mix of both the Chinese asset pack and the normal assets. So let's go ahead and drop some of those in as soon as I see the normal. Where's my normal high density buildings? I'm blind. Okay, North America high density. We can be close to the hospital, but we're not getting close to the highway or that rail subsection. And then over here, I'm going to need to put in some mixed use residential commercial sort of near here. It's a little close to the highway, but I think we'll manage. All right, that should fill in medium and commercial and our high density demand for right now. Now, of course, putting those down, you know what has to come next because, of course, it has to come next. Let's take a look at our schools again. All right, so this time we're definitely going to be okay with using things like the urban and the city elementary schools with no argument whatsoever. but I do know that we're going to need a good chunk, even for this area that's mostly going to be business. So just to reclarify that this is mostly going to be business, but I want to make sure that the residential we put in here for flavor is, adequately served. Okay, done that. Put in schools. A high school would not be the worst idea either to slip in back here while I think of it. And something like this, the modern high school, will be able to fit in really well. This will be close to some other schools. It'll be on right next to the main drag. And it's got a couple of cool extensions. So we'll start by giving it expansion. The student dormitory on this can go off site. So we'll stick one up next to Spruce Street for the moment. And so can the teaching building. And I really like how this looks, so I'm going to put a trio of them, maybe even four, right down. So this is off-site, but it's also right next to the main drag. This is going to have two effects. These buildings won't actually get a lot of use directly, and as such, they will not interfere with the flow of traffic down through here. So we can put some buildings on either side, to the left or the right, on Myrtle Street, and we'll have this sort of low dead area, so it's not eating stuff up right there at the intersection. Okay, so we've placed those, and there's no limit on those. So whoever came up with that one did an outstanding job, and I like you. So keep up those ideas. All right, we'll make sure that this is in this downtown area. All right, and then finally, we'll go ahead and put in another student dormitory. Two if we can. Gonna have to take off snapping because it's not letting me line up perfectly to the side of that road. And then it's not letting me line that up at all because I got that crooked. That's the problem when you're doing no snapping. Now can I? No, will not. Okay, that's fine. We'll live. All right, but what I do want to do is to come over here, get our largest sports park possible that we can fit in behind this. Or beside, ah, are you kidding me? So the basketball center will fit behind it. The community, if those won't, the soccer field and the football field absolutely won't. All right, so we can slip in the basketball center behind it ish, and I think I'll be okay with that. And that gives me enough room back here still. Right there, I can fill in some additional commercial buildings. I'll use mixed use right there. And then once that spot zones in, run a pathway all the way back through there. So that gives me a high school that's got huge student capacity. Okay, cool. All right, and this will start bringing in everything coming down through here. Let's go into signature buildings. Let's go to office. This is something I've been looking forward to for a while. A couple of large buildings I would like to put in here. Ultimately, my goal is to get Skyline Palace built, and it's got a reasonable footprint. Where I'm putting Skyline Palace is something I haven't yet decided because I want this to be a super visible building. I feel like the only place to meet that requirement is right there. don't feel like the city's ready for it yet, though. Let's. We've already put that. Sort of scanning over. The round office is a fun little structure, but we can put the emphasis on that under little. Financial office is kind of cool, though. I don't think it would sit well against the backdrop of that, but it might sit well against the backdrop of the train station. Yeah, we can work with that. So 2% office efficiency, interest in university education, graduation, and +5 well-being. That'll be pretty nice. And then let's take a look at some of our commercial buildings again. So we've got all of this. We're starting to get all this mass transit, but we've got a bunch of important financial buildings and things. So to me, something like the Emerald Building, which is incredibly small. The Grand Hotel's a maybe. Classic modernist hotel based on the Gramada Hotel in. I cannot pronounce that. Small but mighty. The Denmark style. The Sunshine Hotel. Well, this sounds like something that you would want to come to after a long, hard trip into town or a long day. Okay, all those are smaller buildings. I'm surprised these hotels are so small. Um, but it is what it is. All right, I feel like a hotel wouldn't be right next to a hospital, but it would be near a major financial center. So if this will fit, right there should be good. Puts it on the main dragish and right next to a bunch of office and other community. Okay. Our medium density demand has already recovered, which is kind of impressive. So I'm kind of curious to see if we have any traffic choke yet, and we don't that I can tell. So that tells me that this network setup could be a lot worse. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that a little bit longer. Go ahead and save again. Okay, so we've built up all of that. We've got all of those wonderful things going. Let's now take a look down here at this little bit of land. And let's go ahead and grab our harbor. With all the struggles that we've had so far with arrangements and everything, I'm really not surprised. Although, look at this. This lines up about perfectly right here on this edge. So I'm going to slip the harbor right there. We'll go ahead and so that is a 6-lane road light right there, but I'm going to adjust the connector down to 4. And then it can come straight out of the harbor and take a hard left right into the train station. Perfect. Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, and let's come down here. Let's take a look at the amenities. We can give it an extra pier, which we're definitely going to do. And then the transit terminal to add bus and taxi line connections. I'm going to go ahead and slip that in there too. So while it will take me time to develop this waterfront, I want to go ahead. Oh, we're down to 2 million? Sheesh. I want to go ahead and connect our route. And this is going to have to. And then we have to establish our passenger ship route. Then we'll go out of town on the other. Pathfinding failed. Follows the same route. What do you mean pathfinding failed? Huh. I don't know. Maybe these seaways have a maximum capacity? That's weird. All right. Well, I can't do anything about that till I buy up these tiles, and I don't want to buy up those tiles. So that may be a thing where I come back and look at it while I've had the game on pause, or well, I've got 5 minutes and not recording the game. Okay. Well, this is good. While this does incur a cost, this is going to help us get more people in and out of the city, and that is always a good thing to do. Okay, and it does come inherent once you upgrade it with that extra bus stop. So let's go ahead and run a bus line from here to this bus terminal and back. And since that's not terribly far, let's see if we can't. I would be very delighted if we could run this across the bridge. Will it go across the bridge or will it drive all the way through downtown? It is going to go across the bridge. Beautiful. So I'll take this, I'll connect it to a unused bus terminal over here. Then, you know what? I will go ahead and run it all the way up to another unused terminal up here. And then back. Cool. That gives me it gives me two bus routes, one to our downtown area where they can get off and transfer if need be over here to Copper Bluff, and then one more back into the main areas. So cool. Very cool. All right. I don't have, do I not have a bus route going to Copper Bluff? Huh, we need to fix that. All right. Okay, and I sense that we'll probably start getting complaints about not enough buses. So let me go ahead and drop in a bus depot up here in this semi-industrial area, just to be on the safe side. Because I will want to expand our bus network pretty extensively as we develop over here. All right, and every time we get high density office demand back, I want to go ahead and load in some new high density office. And I'm so happy that we can actually start developing city skylines. Really am. Okay, so far so fantastically great. Now, we don't have enough money for me to put in the landmarks that I would like to put in right now, which makes me a sad panda. Uh, and I'm almost out of time with you guys today. And my apologies for this. So I mentioned today's May 10th. For me, in the real world, after this video is over, I got to finish. I've got to finish getting ready for day 3 of a 3 day long sales event at my local mall, where I'm selling books and resin and more. And you can find out more about the books and resin and more that I do at both my Facebook page and my website, sagadmw.com, or the Facebook page that is linked in the video description. I do fundraising under Creative Cosplay, the Mid Ohio Valley. I write fantasy horror and urban fantasy, and I do resin crafts for the fun of it during the spring and summer. Although, ironically, I make more at festivals with my resin crafts than I do with my books. It makes me happy and sad at the same time. Okay. Um, Looking over here. Oh, I do want to build a modern art museum. That's the thing. Okay. So, our actual landmarks really don't know the difference between a tourist attraction and a landmark. Um, Landmarks give you a lot of outdoor and indoor recreation. Tourist attractions don't give as much, but they're supposed to encourage people to come visit. So I don't know. We'll pull down a couple. Um, I would like to build a Ferris wheel right over here. So we have this beautiful Ferris wheel coming right off of the harbor. Whether I put it here or put it over here, I think I would like to build it out over here. I'd like to push out that landmass, but we don't have enough money for it right this second. And the Grand Hotel is something else that I want to build, but I don't want to put that down until after we get our international airport in to maximize the amount of people coming in. The rest of these are more government buildings or Chinese style architecture. The National Gallery of Art is a beautiful, long, lovely building that would fit in very well over here on the coast, but on the other hand, you wouldn't want to have your National Gallery of Art get flooded, which would be a risk for. So we're going to stick it in probably, if I remember, I'll stick it up here closer to this lake when we buy those tiles. All right, so while we wait for money, I'm going to go ahead and squirrel in the Modern Art Museum. That'll set me back a little bit, but it's going to take a few to get that set up down there. Modern Art Museum. Where would you go? You wouldn't go next to major healthcare. You would go in a quasi downtown, well traveled, traversed area. Something. Yeah, something like right back here. Because this is going to put it next to some major financial buildings, a major residential complex. Have a view of a river. Put an extra park or two. And have a sculptor's mansion back here. Can we slip it right here instead? No, let's just have them straight down the street from it. Make sure we get the right direction facing the road. That would be a plus. That should be pretty cool. I would think, I would assume. Yeah, let's get those skylines going to block out view of that highway a little bit. Then we will obviously need some high density commercial. Still bums me that we've got all this beautiful low density commercial and no high density commercial mods. You would think that we would, but we don't. So we're gonna mix this up a little bit. What building is that? Modernist post office. That'll make a lot of noise. People aren't going to want to live next to it. May not be overly enthused with living beside that underground train line. I know I wouldn't be. Okay, so we've got a blockage right here. Now I turned this into a super node just so this is all controlled by one specific stoplight, but this was the mess that I knew was going to happen. So let me go ahead and we're going to upgrade this to 2-lane coming down through here just to improve our flow a little bit. Go ahead and bump that to 4 and finish bumping this to 2. I almost feel like we should consider bumping this to 5. Okay, so we're going to have some moderate traffic confusion as the game tries to figure out what to do with all that. And we're just going to have to live with this. We're putting in buildings that can handle, what, 383 residents side by side. You know, so we're going to get a major boost of people coming into the city. I put in a crematorium over here. I'm not convinced that one's going to be enough the longer I think about it. So let's go ahead and slip in a second one. And it's just going to have to sort of get mixed in with these other buildings. So that kind of helped, but like I said, it's a waiting game right now. I think that actually helped a good bit, really, all things considered. So our problem right now is traffic merging in. Traffic merging in is always a problem. Like, always a problem. Well, let's see what happens if we go ahead and add a something of a diverging diamond slash dumbbell interchange right here. See if that does anything to assist with the traffic flow a little bit. And that's not going to be major. And we'll have a natural blockage coming up here with that stoplight, but that's kind of what stoplights are for. They create blockages on purpose. And yeah, either time helped or something helped. So that freed up that. All right, then. Well, there's not a whole lot more that I feel comfortable tackling right now. We've got the very basics of a harbor district down, and by that I mean we have a harbor down. Um, Short of installing a large park right here, which I think I'll go ahead and do, although that'll be more money. Let's see. Space housing offices. Yep, and that beep is my time. So we'll go ahead and put a Grand City Plaza right here. We'll develop this with commercial and some other stuff. We're going to ignore that beeping because if I tell it to stop, it may have the unintended side effect of freaking out any dot level device you have in your own house, just as an aside. And it's not going to let me run that right there because of that road. Of course it won't. Too close to the existing intersection. Oh, that's a later me problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Josh. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Men Streaming as we started developing the downtown area of Brook End. I'm going to cast my all-seeing governmental gaze down over here, and okay, our death wave cleared up. Beautiful. That's what I wanted to see. I have a traffic accident, but didn't want to see that. So, quick recap. We added some crematoriums, we added some schools, we tried to work on our education crisis that I'm afraid to even look at in our description. We added the dairy farm, a little bit of a farm behind it. We added a small little cafe thing right there. We came over here. We started zoning in office and residential, a mix of Chinese asset pack and standard North American high density residential. We dropped in a couple more special buildings, including the Sunshine Hotel, which is complaining that it doesn't have enough gas. And we added a small diverging diamond interchange over here. Last but not least, we threw in a harbor, a Grand City Plaza, and connected it off to the outside world. We also did a little bit of tweaks to our mass transit. So, not a lot, but a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I did. I was looking forward to putting this harbor in for a long time and getting started to see our downtown develop as a downtown. And I'm going to take a look at this to see how depressed I should get over education. We actually improved it pretty significantly, so that's great. We fixed our high school, college, university. University is going to get a big boost sometime soon, too. So we have that to look forward to. College, too. We're going to put in a new college campus around here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is Josh. This is an episode of Dead Men Streaming. Sorry about the beeping in the background, but if I don't have a timer, I keep playing forever. All right, you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you all again soon.